Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome over to our stream today. It's fantastic to have you here. We have so many news announcements today. It is absolutely insane. New York Comic Con right now looks like it's in full swing here. Plus, Marvel's publishing line right now is incredibly busy from like really solid ongoing series to just incredible installments of the recently launched From the Ashes line over at Marvel Comics for the X-Men books. Let's talk about those two very things right now. I always like to kick off our streams by talking about some of the most recent releases from the past week here. Um, so, curiously enough, Moon Knight actually relaunched with a brand new #1 issue with largely the same creative team of Jed MacKay writing, featuring Alessandro Cappuccio on art. We have colors from Michelle Rosenberg and letters from VC's Corey Petit with an incredibly epic cover showing Moon Knight brought back to life over from David Paratore. This series has just impressed me to no end. Author Jed MacKay has spent so much time with the Moon Knight property now, alongside artist Alessandro Cappuccio. They've done just issue after issue of this series. It's so remarkable to see just a long running story centered around one character with a creative team that sticks with the character for the long haul. Also, frankly, I don't hear it enough across the industry, but my goodness, Alessandro Cappuccio's art is just so beautiful. It follows so nicely in the footsteps of some of the previous artists who've graced the Moon Knight property, like Declan Shalvey, who also shipped just a wonderful issue of Mystique this past week as well, that hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about a little bit later on also. I thought we've seen just about everything we could with Jed MacKay in regard to the Moon Knight property, but Fist of Khonshu did a great job telling a story centered around Moon Knight over in New York City. He's really investigating a magical drug called glitter, which leads him to a surprising gang member named Achilles Fairchild. This character just has such a great personality and just offers so much animosity between the newly revitalized Moon Knight. I was just such a big fan by how Jed MacKay was able to write that scene, and just with how much animosity he's able to create some of these really off putting villains across the series. It was really fantastic to reconnect with Moon Knight, and I just can't wait to see what else this creative team has in store. Also, I want to talk about our flagship X-Men series from Gail Simone and David Marquez. We had a really big comic book centered all around this team fighting the character of Sarah Gaunt. We're going to go ahead and kick off our stream, and then I'll give you some more impressions on Uncanny X-Men issue 4. I want to officially welcome everybody over to the stream. It's fantastic to have you aboard. As we already discussed, there is so much exciting news today. Marvel Comics just announced their brand new comic book event. This is one of the most epic times of the year here, and this event is also centered around the character of Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom recently became the Sorcerer Supreme over at Marvel Comics as a result of the finale of the most recent Blood Hunt events at the publisher. While I wasn't the biggest fan of the Blood Hunt story arc, it seems like Marvel Comics is really embracing the idea of Doctor Doom as the Sorcerer Supreme. It looks like the upcoming 8 Deaths of Spider-Man series really centered around like Joe Kelly, Justina Ireland, and oh goodness, Ed McGuinness's artwork. That series actually pits Spider-Man a little bit closer to Doctor Doom. And we see these two characters working together, maybe to battle some supernatural villains. So that's just one way, in addition to the main marquee event series, that Marvel Comics is really embracing the idea of Doctor Doom taking on this new role. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Really quick, though, I want to give some quick thoughts over on the most recent issue of one of the most important comic books over on our stream, and that is none other than Uncanny X-Men issue 4. Right now, and we're not going to get into it incredibly deep over on this stream, but right now the X-Men comics are headed towards a massive crossover called Raid on Grey Malkin, where the villainous Dr. Ellis is actually turning the Xavier Institute into the Grey Malkin prison. She's asked her associates, Philip and Captain Ezra, to refer to her as the Warden, and she's also sent this really mysterious force of Sarah Gaunt against the X-Men. So in previous comic books, we got to see Wolverine battle Sarah, and the results were absolutely disastrous. They painted sort of the cliffhanger for this issue and actually showed some of the other X-Men wandering in the woods trying to save Wolverine. This actually leads to some really interesting back and forth between the brand new Outliers characters that the X-Men have also recently saved as well, being characters like Deathstream and Calico. Towards the end of this issue, it looks like every member of the X-Men is actually going up to battle against Sarah Gaunt, whether it be the Outliers characters or our main X-Men team. So it's going to be really interesting to watch them come together. Also, X-Men is really headed towards this massive crossover. The publisher has already teased that the characters of Rogue and Cyclops are actually going to be, fighting against each other with some of their differing views on Professor Xavier's dream. And this shockingly breaks out in the middle of a crossover event where the X-Men are trying to fight back not only against Sarah Gaunt, but the rest of her forces as well, like Captain Ezra or the mysterious Philip, who's just been torturing Professor Xavier to no end. Another aspect about this issue that I want to make sure we touch on, aside from just the excellent artwork from David Marquez, is just the really interesting plotting in the comic book as well. I found it pretty engaging how this series actually showed Wolverine towards the end of the issue, but actually made a triumphant cliffhanger, showing him trying to band together with the rest of the X-Men to take on these characters. So I'm very excited right now about the Uncanny X-Men series from Marvel. It seems like this book is really firing on so much potential. The artwork from David Marquez is absolutely wonderful, and we're only a few comic books away from a massive crossover. We'll have more to come on this X-Men series as it develops here, and as we get a little bit closer over to the Raid on Grey Malkin series. I just want to encourage everybody to stay current on the main X-Men title as of right now. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to some breaking news over on the stream here. New York Comic Con right now is in full swing, and we have some really exciting stories. Why don't we go ahead and kick it off with one of our biggest, actually. So before we get to the massive Rise of Emperor Doom story, I actually want to go ahead and check in with the Avengers characters to see how they're dealing with some of the recent status quo events over at Marvel Comics. The main Avengers series is actually written by X-Men writer Jed MacKay, featuring art from C.F. Villa. However, this new issue actually features artwork from Fareed Karami. Let's go ahead and check out Avengers issue 19, putting the team face to face with Doctor Supreme for the first time since he became Sorcerer Supreme. Also, I want to give a big thank you over to George Marston. This is a really fun event series here, setting up just a really interesting storyline as far as Emperor Doom goes. Nobody except me. Great to have you over on the stream today. You said, I love the Ultimate Wolverine design. We'll be checking in on that a little bit later on in the stream here. Doctor Doom is officially the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. Following the conclusion of Marvel's summer event Blood Hunt, he's now confronting the Avengers directly for the first time since taking up the mantle in issue 19. And we've got a preview of interior pages leading up to their meeting. That's not all that's going on in this preview, as we also learn that T'Challa is taking a brief leave of absence from the team to venture inside the Meridian Diadem, which imprisons thousands of captured people in its bizarre facets. T'Challa is embarking on a solo mission away from the Avengers that may have something to do with the team's latest member, Storm, who is also his ex-wife. And the awkwardness that still exists between them following their divorce is a fact that is pointed out in these pages. Okay, so here is a preview of the upcoming Avengers 19 from Jed MacKay, Fareed Karami, Federico Blee, and VC's Corey Petit. Just to start off here, I want to say that Farid Karami's artwork is absolutely wonderful. He gives just so much personality and some of the facial details between Captain America as well as Black Panther over in this storyline. It's also quite interesting reading about how Black Panther is really trying to take on the Meridian Diadem and maybe try and save, some of his fellow associates here. It's also interesting, just as the article suggested, that Black Panther is really trying to go on this away mission in the middle of his ex-wife Storm joining the team, which also happened very recently in the aspect of the main Avengers ongoing series. Also, I want to highlight some of the gorgeous colors here. I love just the echoes of orange in the background, juxtaposed with Black Panther and Captain America, that have this really interesting kind of blue light on them in the middle of the page here, too. Over in this next scene, we get to catch up with the characters of Captain Marvel and Storm, discussing actually Storm's previous relationship over with Black Panther 2. It's interesting to get these relationship aspects explored from both sides of the relationship duo, and I'm really happy that Jed MacKay was able to explore these Avengers characters in so much depth across this series. As you can tell from this page, there's a ton of dialogue here, and I do think that in some of the individual X-Men issues, Jed MacKay could maybe tone down some of that dialogue just a little bit and still get to the heart of the matter, but I still really appreciate some of the characterization, and once again here, the incredibly strong expressions that Storm is levying towards Captain Marvel. Over in the next page, we get some of our characters teaming up with each other before we get a really interesting reaction shot in the final scene, and then we get the big reveal of the Emperor Doom over on the final page. It looks like Avengers 19 is actually serving as a prelude to the upcoming Rise of Emperor Doom event that was just announced over at Marvel Comics. In fact, let's go ahead and explore that upcoming storyline right now that we've gotten a little bit of a preview on where the Avengers are currently at here. So here we have it over from New York Comic Con. This one was actually published 2 days ago over from Marvel Comics. One World Under Doom. Marvel Comics unveils the Rise of Emperor Doom story. So this is Marvel's upcoming just massive event. The publisher is really trying to make some synergy between the movies and really exploring and deepening the character of Doctor Doom. For me, this is super exciting because we have such a strong creative team over on this series. Ryan North is a really interesting creator that has done a great job with the Fantastic Four property and telling these super interesting done-in-one stories that are really focused on the characterization of these heroes. I love the way that Ryan North was able to kick off the Fantastic Four series, putting such a big emphasis on the characters of Ben Grimm and Alicia as well. Ryan North and R.B. Silva's Rise of Emperor Doom, a 5-issue event series tied to the upcoming One World Under Doom status quo, launches in February. You know, one really interesting thing that I'm starting to see Marvel Comics employ more and more are just smaller event series that are published really quickly. I look back on stories like Secret Invasion and the way that they were published monthly, just playing out over such a large stretch of time. Almost a year was just really hard to read, really just as a viewer here. So the idea of telling a shorter event series that's going to take up a little bit less time is super exciting to me. Just now, at New York Comic Con's Marvel Comics Next Big Thing panel, the biggest comics panel of the weekend, Editor-in-Chief C.B. Cebulski and Executive Editor Tom Brevoort and Fantastic Four writer Ryan North revealed more information on what the future holds in the Marvel Universe next year in One World Under Doom. Let's go ahead and show off this gorgeous cover for the first issue. This one is actually illustrated by Ben Harvey. Surprisingly enough, though, it looks like the Rise of Emperor Doom series is actually drawn by R.B. Silva, who contributed just some beautiful artwork over in the Krakoan era for Marvel Comics. It's great to have him as the lead artist for like the marquee event over at Marvel Comics. First teased last year at San Diego Comic-Con, One World Under Doom is the overarching status quo shift coming to Marvel Comics, the likes of which haven't been seen since 2008's Dark Reign. spinning out of Bloodhunt, where Doctor Doom manipulated Doctor Strange into passing him the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. One World Under Doom sees Doom accomplish his ultimate goal at last as he uses his new power to take over the entire world. It's a shocking and upending turn of events that will impact Marvel's entire line of comics and see the launch of tie-in series and one-shots, collectively forming an era worthy of comic books' greatest supervillain. One World Under Doom will be anchored by a core title launching in February, Rise of Emperor Doom. The 5-issue event series will be written by Ryan North, whose current run of Fantastic Four will be heavily impacted by One World Under Doom, and drawn by one of the industry's hottest artists, known for his defining work, and that would be R.B. Silva, for titles like Rise of the Powers of 10 and, of course, Powers of 10 itself. While Doom's reign will be felt across the universe, Rise of Emperor Doom will take readers behind the mask as they bear witness to the triumphs and trials of Doom's rule, as well as the foolish attempts to topple it. You know, we've definitely seen Doctor Doom flirt with just awesome power in the past. One of the biggest comic books that's really come into mind here is Jonathan Hickman's really epic Secret Wars storyline, which saw Doom become the God Emperor Doom and just take on so many forces across the Marvel universe. Seeing him have complete control and watching him create such a complete vision of what his vision of the Marvel universe looks like is so interesting. I'm really curious at this point if this Rise of Emperor Doom story is going to be able to tell a narrative that is able to compete with Hickman's epic work over on Secret Wars. 6 months ago, Dr. Victor Von Doom became Sorcerer Supreme, then disappeared behind Latveria's closest borders. For most, there's enough going on in the world that Doom's absence is not a priority, and some time without him feels like a blessing. Only a few recognize it for what it truly was, the calm before the storm. It is a storm that has now arrived. The world has been woken up to a new reality. Doctor Doom, Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, has magically taken over every broadcast medium on the planet and declared himself Emperor of the world, the ruler of a new united Latveria. And shockingly and possibly, all of Earth's leaders seem to be going along with this. The idea of expanding Latveria is actually a really novel concept that I would expect to see from such a clever writer like Ryan North. It's also a lot different than, what Jonathan Hickman did with Doom taking all that power during Secret Wars 2. Luckily, whether it's mind control or Doombots, whatever is affecting them hasn't quite affected Earth's heroes. And so they quickly form a strike team to stop Doom's machinations, but will they succeed? And what happens when someone begins to welcome their new emperor with open arms, clamoring for one world under Doom? And I'm wondering if this is a hint towards why all these characters towards the bottom of the page are actually kneeling and seemingly welcoming Doom with his just incredibly awesome power. I love the idea that so many of Earth's leaders are actually supporting Doom in his bid to supremacy. And I think the title, this One World Under Doom, is actually quite silly as well. It seems like Ryan North is really enjoying the irony of this series just due to some of the facets of the way that this comic book is marketed. Okay, this one kicks off on February 12th. I'm wondering if we're going to start seeing some big tie-in series for this too. One World Under Doom is the umbrella, impacting not just the rise of Emperor Doom, but the entire Marvel Universe. And this is a quote coming in from Tom Brevoort. To the Avengers, Spider-Man, and more, Doom is going to impact every corner of the universe in 2025. One World Under Doom sees Doctor Doom coming out of Latveria and overnight taking over the world. Every country is a province of a united Latveria, and everyone answers to Doom. He is going to make some changes. He gets to show the world that he's the greatest at what he does, and he might not be great for people not named Victor Von Doom. Once again, we've already kind of explored this concept, but I really like how Ryan North is actually communicating this over to readers. Every country is a province of a united Latveria, and everyone answers to Doom. I'm wondering if this is going to be sort of a fake reality story, ushering so much of just Marvel's Earth into Latveria here. Seems like Doctor Doom has some awesome power here that he's willing to push nearly as far as he possibly can. Check out the Ben Harvey promotional cover for Rise of Emperor Doom 1, a promotional piece from Greg Land, and interior artwork. Stay tuned for more news in the weeks ahead. All right, let's see what kind of promotional artwork we have for this brand new story. Here is the Greg Land piece that Marvel Comics was teasing. Yeah, it's so interesting seeing Doctor Doom holding what looks like some sort of press conference here, ushering in his new United Latveria. I love this concept already. I feel like Ryan North and hopefully some of the other writers at Marvel Comics will get a ton of leverage out of this. Okay, and then we actually have an RB Silva piece that I want to look at too. We use this artwork for the thumbnail of the video. I was wondering why it reminded me so much of Rise of the Powers of 10, and I can see why. It's because RB Silva, the founding artist of Krakoa, actually drew this incredible piece here. In fact, it looks like we also have a Doctor Doom drawn by RB Silva himself. And I'm really loving the sense of perspective here. Let's go ahead and check out this piece from RB Silva. You see how he sort of places the camera like slightly below Doom, so he's able to just get that great shot of Doom looking so menacingly at the camera. Plus we have Doctor Doom, taking on just a big burst of energy over in what looks to be his right hand, I believe, because the image is reversed according to what I'm seeing here. This is a great direction over for Marvel. It does seem like maybe slightly derivative of previous stories, but I love the fact that Doom is actually seizing power in a way that's a little bit more unique to the Marvel Universe as opposed to what happened in Secret Wars. I'm really hoping for some greatness in this Rise of Emperor Doom story. I love the idea that Marvel Comics is really utilizing Ryan North for a big, massive event. I really want to see what he's capable of and if he's really able to tell a story with this character that's going to rival, some of the best Doctor Doom stories we've seen. Yeah, really excited to go ahead and cover this series. Stay tuned to our channel for more coverage for Rise of Emperor Doom. And I guess really too what I'm going to be looking for just before we close out this story is for Marvel Comics to announce a little bit more tie-ins for the series as well. So we'll go ahead and keep a close eye over for that. Okay, let's check out our new story over from New York Comic Con. Excuse me, give me just a second here. Okay, so this is another really fun, a really crazy story over at Marvel Comics. As soon as Marvel is done publishing a really interesting ongoing event series for a big character like a Captain America, a Daredevil, or an Iron Man, oftentimes the publisher has a brand new release like the very next month for a new ongoing series with that same character. In that same tradition, it looks like Marvel Comics is actually launching a brand new volume of Iron Man. This one is written by Pulitzer Prize winner Spencer Ackerman and features some artwork from Julius Ota. We're going to go ahead and check out this introduction news article over from Tim Adams at comicbook.com, and then we're actually going to preview some interior pages from this brand new, really fascinating Iron Man series. A preview of Marvel's brand new Iron Man pits the armored Avenger against a pair of Hulk bros. Pulitzer Prize winner Spencer Ackerman and Julius Ota are taking the reins on a new volume of Iron Man, which finds Tony Stark back in control of his company, Stark Unlimited. One really interesting aspect of Spencer Ackerman's volume of Iron Man is it really seems like some of the most recent Iron Man writers, like Jerry Duggan, as well as Christopher Cantwell, have really tried to decompress Iron Man and really strip him of all of his resources. It looks like Spencer Ackerman is actually taking Tony Stark and putting him back in control of his corporate entities here. So I feel like we're going to get a much different direction moving forward for this new Iron Man series that sees Tony sees a few more resources than some of the previous couple runs that we've got. Also, I'm wondering if Tony Stark is going to be a little bit angry from what happened towards the end of Krakoa. The villainous Fei Long managed to seize control of his company along with some other Orcus goons. And at this point, it's going to be really interesting seeing if Tony has any sort of hard feelings from the adversity he's faced, or if he's just willing to carry his company with a more level head moving forward. Iron Man has a lot of work ahead of him to clean up the mess. The opening arc of Iron Man begins with the Stark Roxxon War, and the story is coming out of the gates hot, with Hulk Bros looking to stomp out Union workers. Comic Book has the exclusive preview of Iron Man by Ackerman and Ota. It takes readers to a Stark Unlimited plant in upstate New York, where two guards have locked the workers outside the gate. When the workers threaten to gather in the parking lot, the guards transform into Hulk-sized mutates to threaten them. Iron Man eventually shows up to put a stop to the Hulk Bros before a Union worker gives Tony Stark a tour of the facility. I love the idea that Tony Stark himself is taking on the idea of characters from his own company, employees from his own company actually unionizing together. Tony Stark actually supports the Union and is seemingly trying to help, the common man really accomplish his goals. The Union wants a say in the type of weapons they're making for Stark Unlimited, and Tony agrees their input should be considered. Before he flies off as Iron Man, Tony accepts the terms and let his actions speak for himself. Okay, let's go ahead and check out some of Ackerman and Ota's first interior pages on the brand new volume of Iron Man, teasing this interesting Stark Roxxon War as well. So here we have some of the Union workers trying to band together and enforce a lockout at Stark Unlimited. In the meantime, we have these Hulk security guards kind of busting out and showing their true power here towards the bottom of the page. These Union workers are putting everything on the line and battling against these mysterious supernatural forces here. Towards the background, we get a shot of Iron Man's repulsor beam. And then on the next page here, we see that Iron Man is actually trying to help out some of his fellow workers and the common man here. Iron Man fires another laser and actually catches up with Roman Vicente, the factory worker trying to head up the Union. And in this final page here, Iron Man actually agrees to work alongside this character. In fact, Ramon even doesn't let up on Tony Stark after Tony Stark saved his life. He says, "You're why we're organizing. We don't like the stuff. We know you don't like the stuff we make." Tony says, "Genocide robots with my biggest branding, not the biggest fan, no." Ramon says, "Look closer. We make artillery shells here now." Tony says, "And how do you feel about making those?" Here's the last word from Ramon over in our preview. He says, "I got enough of artillery my first tour. I'm here because I need this job, just like all them outside. Are you going to make us find new ones?" In this final shot here, we get Tony officially committing to Ramon that he's willing to recognize the Union as Iron Man flies off towards his next job here. So I think Ackerman has really created a fascinating scenario where Tony Stark really has to battle some of the demons at his own company and start to get a grip on just what's going on at Stark Unlimited in the wake of the Orcus takeover with Fei Long. It really seems like Spencer Ackerman is taking on so much ambition with his new Iron Man series, and I'm really interested to see how he's going to pick up on all these plot threads here moving forward. Looks like this brand new series of Iron Man is on sale Wednesday, October 23rd. Okay, I know everybody's super eager to talk about the brand new Ultimate Wolverine story. We are going to go ahead and touch on that as soon as we're done with this next news story, which was actually shocking to me. So this past let's see here. This past Tuesday, Marvel Comics actually announced that author J. Michael Straczynski is going to be wrapping up his Captain America run with issue 16. I have to say, while I've fallen off of this series past the first couple of issues, it's so sad to me to see that JMS is actually hopping off of his Captain America run. I feel like he could have accomplished so much with the interesting, occult, science fiction, alternate history stories that he was telling. I really love these like deep and really intimate character studies with JMS and these characters. And it's always sad to me to see JMS like leave these comic books before he's able to stay on them for a couple years and just really find the interesting sense of personality for these characters. For me, it was so sad when he left the Thor ongoing series because I think what he and artist Olivier Coipel were accomplishing on that comic book was amazing. I feel like he wasn't done telling stories about like Balder and Loki. And I have a feeling that when I catch up on this Captain America series, it's going to be largely the same thing, where JMS probably could have gotten so much more mileage out of staying on one series for a little bit longer. But I at least want to hear what Marvel Comics has in store for the end of JMS's Captain America run. Once again, here, this one is coming in from William Salmon at newsarama.com. Last week, we reported that Babylon 5 creator and longtime Spider-Man scribe J. Michael Straczynski is set to pen a pair of Marvel one-shots, a series, not a pair, starting in January 2025. Featuring some unusual pairings, Doctor Doom and Rocket Raccoon, Captain America and Volstagg, Nick Fury versus Fin Fang Foom, Hulk and Doctor Strange Ghost Rider versus Galactus. We previewed a lot of these one-shots on our past live stream. A lot of them seem like a ton of fun. JMS is also a really good writer at taking these like individual character stories and telling these done-in-one comic books that actually have like some substance with these characters. But I feel like what has more substance are his really long-running epic runs with these characters, and I sure would like to see him work on the Captain America series longer as opposed to seeing one-shots. But I'm still happy to see nearly anything JMS has to release at Marvel. I think he's an epic writer that's proven himself just again and again and again. Straczynski has also announced that his run on the Captain America monthly comic will be coming to an end. Posting on his Twitter in response to a fan question, Straczynski said, "My last Cap issue is 16, and then there's this one-shot program and one other little item that will be mentioned when the time is right." So if we got a new project from JMS at Marvel, to be frank, I would prefer it be another long-running ongoing series. I feel like the chances of that are next to none, based on this one sentence that he wrote over on his Twitter. He said, another one little item that will be mentioned when the time is right. If I was releasing an ongoing series at Marvel Comics with a major flagship character, I would not refer to them as a little item necessarily. So I don't think we're going to get ultimately what I want from JMS at Marvel Comics, but maybe if we wait long enough, we'll see him take on a really big ongoing series here in the near future. I'm really loving this Taryn Clark cover for the final issue of Captain America. Taryn Clark does such great covers. He's actually illustrated some over for DC as well, not just Marvel Comics. The first issue of Straczynski's run on Captain America was published in September of 2023 with art from Jesus Saiz, who is returning to draw the final two issues of the series. Thank God. Jesus Saiz is such a wonderful artist. He's probably one of my like top 5 favorite at Marvel or DC or in comics in general. His contributions to the Swamp Thing series at DC are amazing. If you see the name Jesus Saiz, you should buy the comic book because you know you're at least going to get some really wonderful interior art. Okay, let's read about the beginning of the Captain America arc. It began with Steve Rogers setting out to renovate his childhood apartment, only to come under attack from the demon Asmodee. Since then, Cap has caught in the crossfire between the embodiment of death and life, with the latter tasking Rogers with protecting the inhabitants of a magical safe house. The final 3 issues of the run will see Cap join forces with Spider Man and Thor, both characters that Straczynski has had a lot of experience writing, as the new Warriors 3. God, that is such a cool idea. JMS taking like 3 of the characters he's worked longest at Marvel Comics, like in solo series, teaming them all up for the end of his big Captain America run is just such a cool idea. I'm really going to try and catch up on this series, hopefully before the finale here. So it looks like we actually have dates for the final 3 issues of Captain America. We have issue 14 on sale October 30th, with the next couple comic books on sale November 13th, and then with the triumphant 16 over on December 18th. So really sad to see what happened over at Marvel Comics with JMS on Cap, but hopefully JMS will be on board another ongoing series here in the very near future. Okay, we promised we would go ahead and talk about the brand new Ultimate Wolverine series. For me, this new comic book seems very, very interesting. One thing I'm really looking for in terms of Marvel Comics Ultimate line is really for the publisher to tell stories that don't reflect what's going on in the 616 universe. With the character of Wolverine, it looks like Marvel Comics is doing just that idea by taking the character of Wolverine and actually merging him so closely with the Maker character. Also, we have a super exciting creative team on Ultimate Wolverine. Towards the beginning of the stream, I talked about actually how much I appreciate what Alessandro Cappuccio is doing with Jed MacKay on Moon Knight. Cappuccio is actually drawing this brand new Ultimate Wolverine comic book series. Check out this amazing cover from Cappuccio as well. Once again here, I think he's one of my top 5 favorite Marvel artists, and seeing him take on a character other than Moon Knight being Wolverine is a super interesting idea as well. So this Ultimate Wolverine series is launching in 2025. It features writing from Chris Condon and was announced, let's see here, when was it announced? Just 2 days ago at Marvel Comics' Next Big Thing panel at New York Comic Con. The biggest comics panel of the weekend was New York Comic Con's Marvel Comics Next Big Thing series. Editor-in-Chief C.B. Cebulski, writer Chris Condon, and more revealed the next ongoing series to Marvel's hit new Ultimate Universe. Joining the acclaimed Ultimate Spider-Man, Black Panther, X-Men, and Ultimates is Ultimate Wolverine. Hitting stands in January, Ultimate Wolverine will be written by Chris Condon and drawn by Moon Knight powerhouse Alessandro Cappuccio, true to the character's origin as a government weapon. Ultimate Wolverine is an unwilling agent of the Maker, the secret creator of this corrupt universe. Mind-wiped and used as an assassin, he's still the best there is at what he does, even if he's not in control of who he does it to. The idea of a mind-wiped Wolverine in the middle of the Ultimate Universe definitely does seem a little bit redundant and derivative. Writer Chris Condon is really going to have to tell an in-depth story that really has a specific tone in order to make sure that this series is engaging. Also, right now the Maker character is off the board, so I really wonder what the Ultimate Wolverine character is doing in his absence. Maybe one more thing we can say about this before heading back to the article is it's also going to be interesting to me to see how close Wolverine is working alongside the Maker's Council. Each month and week, it feels like we get a little bit more close to some of these characters being magic. We have the Hulk character as well, who showed up in the most recent issue of Ultimate. So I'm really interested to see how close our Wolverine character is working alongside the rulers of the Earth's domain with the Maker. When Will Moss called me and asked me if I wanted to take on this title, I jumped at the chance and immediately had an idea of what to do with it. And this is an article, or this is a quote from Chris Condon. I'm bringing the essence of storytelling from that Texas blood to the Marvel Universe with Wolverine, looking back at what came before and bringing us something new. You might notice there's a red star on his costume, and you might wonder why. If you look at that mask, there's a muzzle on him, and that's because he's wild. The Maker's ultimate weapon. In order to maintain control of their corner of the Maker's world, three members of the Council, Magic, Colossus, and Omega Red, deploy their most lethal asset, the Winter Soldier. But who is the weapon behind the mask? Okay, there you go. That was the plot details I was looking for. I was curious to see who among the Maker's Council Ultimate Wolverine is working with. It looks like it's going to be Magic, Colossus, and Omega Red. One character in the Maker's Council that I really need to see more characterization for is Magic. I'm curious to see if she is a villainous character in the Ultimate Universe and think that would actually be a really interesting way to characterize her as opposed to the 616 universe, where she's currently working alongside Cyclops' team of X-Men right now too. Also, the idea of these characters calling the Ultimate Wolverine their Winter Soldier is such a cool premise here. I'm also hoping eventually we're going to be able to get that muzzle off of Wolverine. I'm really hoping that it doesn't prevent him from having a little bit more characterization in the series moving forward. Before Ultimate Wolverine arrives in January, readers will see him in action for the first time in a prelude story by Condon and Cappuccio in Ultimate Universe 1 year in. This special one-shot that concludes the first year of Marvel's new Ultimate Universe and sets up the next year of stories, including the Maker's long-awaited return. The Ultimate Universe 1 year in one-shot seems incredibly cool. I love the idea that we have one really interesting plot thread set up for that story. So really seeing the character of Ultimate Wolverine employed as a weapon for these members of the Maker's Council. Check out Cappuccio's main cover for Ultimate Wolverine #1, along with variants from Gleb Melnikov and Steve Skroce. See Cappuccio's original sheet design and the newly revealed Ultimate Universe 1 year in spoiler cover featuring the Ultimate Wolverine. Man, I haven't seen any of this art yet. It's going to be really fun to preview some of these brand new covers here. Okay, so here is the Ultimate Universe 1 year in spoiler cover featuring Wolverine. This is an incredibly cool image here. Love the fact that Marvel Comics waited until New York Comic Con to show off this fascinating piece of artwork. And next up, we have the design sheet from Alessandro Cappuccio. I didn't really understand in the past how this star worked on Wolverine, but now that we see a bigger image of the costume, it makes a lot more sense. I'm always a big fan of artists playing with negative space, and I think the way that this is such a streamlined, such a simple design, but has all these interesting bleeds of black and red, just really is a great way to depict this Wolverine costume and make it just ever so slightly different from the 616 counterpart. I love that we're just going to take one quick glance at the Ultimate Wolverine and we're going to know that it's the ultimate version of the character. I'm thinking this is the Steve Skroce cover. This is pretty fun. Also quite interesting to see Ultimate Wolverine get so violent with these members of the Maker's Council like Colossus and Omega Red. Really fun stuff. Finally, here we get a much more streamlined, much more animated cover. I'm really thinking this is probably from Gleb Melnikov. This image also does a really good job showing just how different this version of the Wolverine costume is as opposed to the main one in continuity. Also, very happy to see Gleb Melnikov working so much at Marvel Comics. I love so much of his work over on Batman and Robin. I think he's such a great artist that captures so much emotion in his work. I'd love to see him tell like more and more Marvel stories. I keep seeing him pop up more and more and more. Okay, very happy with the direction of the Ultimate Universe. I love the idea that we may have the Ultimate Wolverine hopefully teaming up with our Ultimates characters eventually once he learns the true nature of the Maker and maybe catches a stronger glimpse on reality, just like the Winter Soldier character. Really interesting stuff over at Marvel Comics. Okay, it has been way too long since we've explored and really talked about DC Comics in any sort of depth. There's a ton of really fun DC Comics that were announced at San Diego Comic Con, or excuse me, New York Comic Con this past weekend. One comic book series that I'm just incredibly excited to see is this brand new Aquaman book. Let's go ahead and check it out right now. This one is coming in over from Adventures in Poor Taste. Jeremy Adams and John Timms are taking on a brand new Aquaman for DC's All In initiative. Aquaman is a character who I've loved. He's just so unique as a hero. And Arthur also has so much responsibilities. He's royalty, he has a family, he's a superhero. The idea of such an accomplished DC writer, Jeremy Adams, who just came off of such an epic Flash run, is set to take over Aquaman is such a great idea. I'm curious to see what he has in store. Also, we have John Timms on artwork. I've always loved John Timms' work on Harley Quinn. The way he draws such animated characters is so engaging and endearing. And finally, he's on a book that's more closely acclimated to my sensibilities here with this Aquaman series. By the way, this one is coming in from David Brooke at Adventures in Poor Taste, published yesterday. Looks like the new series is set to go on sale January of 2025, and the debut is apparently 48 pages. In the wake of absolute power, Arthur Curry's powers have evolved to powerful new heights. Man, we had 3 powers in one sentence. That's insane. This is one king ready to use them to kick some serious butt. Mammoth water construct kaijus have emerged from each of the 7 seas, and only Aquaman's water warping abilities can stop them. But not if they kill the good thing in the process. Enter Dagon, Arthur's guide on the quest to unlock the secrets of the blue. Oh, interesting. Is DC Comics trying to expand their like red and green concept with the blue? I love that idea. What deadly secrets await Arthur on his journey? It's an all-new era for Aquaman by acclaimed creators Jeremy Adams and John Timms that will leave you cheering. The first issue has variant covers from Christian Moore, Yvonne Heiss, Brad Walker, Salvador LaRocca, and Tula Late. Man, those are like all of my favorite artists at DC contributing variant covers for this book. Jeremy Adams revealed at New York Comic Con that Aquaman's new abilities will come in handy as he'll be fighting giant water-based kaiju constructs appearing throughout the 7 seas while investigating secrets of the blue with Dagon, a guide from Aquaman's past. Already, DC Comics has revealed quite a few plot concepts for the idea. It looks like Arthur is going to be taking on some water-based kaiju across the series. He's going to be learning brand new secrets about the mysterious blue. Hopefully, we'll get a much stronger read on how the blue works in terms of DC's continuity, like the green and the red. Also, I'm very interested to hear more about this mysterious Dagon character who Aquaman is set to team up with too. It's good to see Mera. Also, Jackson as Aqualad. That's a character who I've really grown attached to in the past couple of years of DC Comics. I'm wondering if Mera and Aquaman's child is going to be in this book too. So here's some of our water-based kaiju. Very creative designs here from John Timms. In fact, I don't think we've shouted out his artwork enough. It's so visceral. It's so beautiful. Very, very excited for this one. Okay, looks like this is on sale January 8th. And we have another cover here and a couple more variants. To me, this one is looking like the Tula Lotte cover. Yeah, and also we have this amazing Christian Ward image too. And here is a preview too of John Tim's interior art for this series. Man, the panel bleeds. The dark negative space is so fascinating. Also, this like sepia-hued characters towards the top of the lighthouse, which is so pivotal to Aquaman's continuity, is really beautiful to witness. It really seems like John Timms is really leveling up as a creator. Very interested to check out some of the artwork in this one. Okay, very cool stuff from DC Comics. Aquaman is just such a unique and like science fiction based character. Um, I always love seeing some of the new takes on Arthur Curry. Okay, I want to go ahead and stay with DC Comics and actually talk about the brand new Green Lantern story, but I just need to find it first. Okay, so one of my other like really favorite properties at DC Comics happens to be the Green Lantern franchise. It looks like DC just recently announced a huge Green Lantern story over at New York Comic Con. Let's go ahead and see what author Jeremy Adams has in store for his upcoming run. Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum reveals a brand new type of lantern. The world of, oh, by the way, this one is by Matthew Aguilar from comicbook.com, written once again just yesterday here on October 18th. The world of Green Lantern Corps has been rather busy as of late thanks to the events of DC's Green Lantern Civil Corps Special and this week's Green Lantern 16. But things are only going to get more complicated from here. In the newest DC Connect, fans get the first details on the next big milestone for the Green Lantern franchise, which will take place in January 2025's Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum 1. The new one shot will be written by Green Lantern writer Jeremy Adams and drawn by V. Ken Marion. And those who pick it up will meet a new type of lantern. These new additions are known as fractal lanterns, and it seems these new lanterns are a direct result of Tharos' tampering with the emotional spectrum. So I really checked out, I'd say, about the first 6 issues of Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern run. I love the way that he was able to characterize Hal Jordan on this really down on his luck hero. Also, just so much of the back and forth and camaraderie he had with his ex-partner Carol was so much fun too, and seeing him and seeing her really talk to her brand new fiance as well. Towards the end of like the 6 issues that I read, we got to see Hal go up against Sinestro. And as I was reading that book, I was really hoping that Jeremy Adams would kind of expand the world of his Green Lantern comic book. And while I don't know if any writer can potentially get to the cosmic length that Jeff Johns did with his run, I'd love to see somebody really try and tackle a super ambitious Green Lantern story, really touching on so many aspects of the emotional spectrum. And it really seems like Jeremy Adams has something big in store. Let's check out what else he has for this really interesting new emotional spectrum idea with these fractal lanterns. If you've been following along, if you've been following along with all the chaos recently, the Green Lanterns have been dealing with corruption and spy tactics of Tharos, who is able to install his own people in seats of power and fool much of the cosmic authorities in the process. In his route to power, Tharos has had these central power batteries destroyed, taking the power for himself and for his growing army. And let's learn more about the fractal lanterns. That seems to be tied to what is being described in the Fractured Spectrum one-shot. The description says these new fractal lanterns are beings that manifest uncontrolled parts of the emotional spectrum. And since the power batteries have fulfilled that purpose, it is likely some of the energy has started to have rather chaotic effects across the universe. I feel like Green Lantern has also explored the idea of energies in the universe not quite being in the right place. I think one great example to explore is the source wall that has been like such a close aspect of continuity to Green Lantern and DC's own continuity from the past couple years. I'm a big fan of the promotional images from the piece, and I really wonder who this character is in the bottom left corner, too. This is likely not to affect the Green Lanterns, as it's been established in the pages of the main series that there was a second power battery located on Earth. In recent issues, Hal has worked with Jadestone to get all the new lantern rings for the battery. But as of now, that hasn't happened with the other cores, and thus we are having issues like this. Granted, that's just a guess on my part, but it seems pretty likely, right? You can check out two covers from the new Fractured Spectrum one shot, and below you can find more details on the anticipated special. So, right now, if I think about the broader aspect of DC Comics, I really want to acknowledge the fact that there is this Lantern show in development starring some Green Lantern characters. It seems like DC may want to position like a bigger Green Lantern franchise as we get closer to the debut of the new TV show. Hopefully this like Fractured Spectrum is just one of the first steps that we're going to get to like a bigger, more bold DC universe. This cover seems to be teasing some of those elements as we not only have some of the former Green Lanterns like Jessica Cruz, but we also have Joe Moline here too, who's just much different in the pages of Far Sector as opposed to some of these other characters. I'm very happy that DC is still like devoted to publishing Jessica and Joe Moline too after all this time. Frankly, I miss Simon Baz. I think he's also a very unique character. I wish he was on the cover as well with some of his fellow Lanterns. Let's read this last paragraph and then we'll check out our next story. Following the events of Civil War, a new era in Green Lantern mythology begins. Once again, Oa has become the epicenter of the Green Lantern Corps, bringing justice to the furthest corners of the galaxy. This is also an interesting sentence because I know Oa was compromised towards the beginning of the Green Lantern run. So the idea that the Green Lanterns are finally like taking back their place in the universe and maybe establishing like more ambition too is really interesting to me as a reader. A new threat has emerged, beings that manifest uncontrolled parts of the emotional spectrum that have randomly appeared throughout the universe. Dubbed Fractal Lanterns, Hal and a reformed Green Lantern Corps set off to police this strange new phenomenon while uncovering a sinister plot that can eliminate the very essence of sentient life. Way to go, DC, for getting a little bit more ambitious with the main Green Lantern series. We're not done. We have tons more news stories that I'm really excited to go ahead and follow up on here. We usually don't focus on these Marvel Unlimited series, but Marvel actually unleashed a brand new line of Infinity comics, I believe, that are still exclusive to the app that look really enticing here. Let's go ahead and check out some of these brand new Infinity digital comics coming from Marvel. First off, I'm going to put a look at the brand new Astonishing Spider-Man series over on the screen. This one written by Scott Aukerman, featuring artwork by Salva Espen and Julian Shaw. This one was published October 17th on Marvel.com. Starting today, Marvel Unlimited is launching an all-new Astonishing Infinity Comics line, beginning with Astonishing Spider-Man, with both issue 1 and 2 available now to readers for free, no login required for a limited time. So this Spider-Man series is actually being written by like podcaster Scott Aukerman. It's being drawn by Salva Espin and Julian Shaw. And in this new series, Spider Man's life runs into some serious trouble that all starts with a bang. Now, Scott Aukerman has worked in comics before, but in a very limited capacity. The idea that he's heading up this brand new line of like Infinity Comics at Marvel is actually pretty exciting. Let's see what he has to say about his new book. Whether you're a regular reader of Spidey or you've never even read a single comic book featuring the old wall crawler, there'll be something in Astonishing Spider Man for you, Ackerman teased to Marvel.com. Love the idea that he's actually doing some press pieces with Marvel's editorial. I wanted to start out our book by putting Peter into a terrible situation which doesn't have any easy outs. And let's just say it gets worse as it goes along. It's the kind of thing that is going to really make Peter examine why he does what he does and whether he should even continue doing it. For me, when I look at the characters in the background, especially with this image of maybe what looks to be a robot with a smiling face, I wonder just how much humor Ackerman is going to implement into his narrative. If he does, I'm hoping he'll still tell like a more plot focused story that doesn't lose track of what makes the Spider Man story interesting. The new line of Astonishing Infinity Comics will include Astonishing X-Men series beginning December. We have Astonishing Avengers series in 2025. Astonishing Avengers is going to be helmed by Steve Orlando and Francesco. Oof, I don't know if I can get this name. My apologies to this individual, but I believe it's Francesco Archidiacono, followed by writers Alex Paknadel, Tim Seeley, and Philip Sevi on Astonishing X-Men. I am so shocked at how essential these astonishing comic books seem, even though they're housed only on Marvel's Direct app. The idea that not only Alex Paknadel is working on the X-Men book, but we also have Tim Seeley too is quite fascinating. Fans can read Astonishing Spider-Man 1 and 2 for free as part of Marvel's Infinity Start Scrolling digital program. Marvel's Infinity Comics Start Scrolling launched earlier this year, giving fans instant access to select stories spanning the universe for free without the need for a login, exclusively on Marvel Unlimited. Okay, very cool. So it seems like if you go back and check out this article a little bit later, you can get a little bit of free content from Marvel's Infinity line. Okay, we already touched on this Astonishing Spider-Man series from Scott Aukerman, Salva Espin, and Julian Shaw. This one is available now. And here is the upcoming Astonishing X-Men comic book. This one also looks pretty interesting. I'm catching a glimpse of Banshee here as well as some other X-Men heroes. Once again, this one is written by Alex Paknadel and Tim Seeley, featuring art from Philip Sevi, and it's on sale this December. I think maybe one aspect that has held these astonishing comic books back is the artwork. There's times where it can feel a little bit too stylized, especially in the X-Men From the Ashes Infinity comic book. If we can get just a little bit more clean artwork on some of these images, I would love to read a little bit more of these stories. And here is the upcoming Astonishing Avengers, written by Steve Orlando, featuring artwork by Francesco Archidiacono, and it's available this January. I have had so much fun with the Avengers Assemble series from Steve Orlando. I've been able to check out the first two issues. The way that Orlando has managed to implement these like old school Avengers jackets for his characters has been so much fun. Also, some of the characterization with people like Hercules, especially like Night Thrasher too, is just such a joy. I'd really encourage you to go ahead and check out that series if you haven't already. It almost seems like this Astonishing Avengers is maybe going to be an extension of that book, which is also pretty interesting. Also, we have a great cast here of Captain America, She-Hulk, and Elektra as Daredevil. I feel like watching these characters together would probably be a blast. Okay, what do we have next? Okay, this next news story is a really, really long time coming. I believe last year Marvel Comics came out with yet another timeless one shot where they were able to tease an alternate version of Luke Cage and Moon Knight. And finally, nearly 1 year later, we're getting the follow up to that story. Here we go. This one is from Newsarama. Marvel's future Luke Cage, with all the powers of Iron Fist, Hulk, and Sentry, is traveling to the present day Marvel Universe in his own Power Man title. This one was published 2 days ago from Will Salmon. Last year's annual issue of Marvel's timeless anthology introduced the latest Power Man, a version of Luke Cage who has survived until the far future as the last remaining hero, now imbued with the special abilities of Iron Fist, Sentry, and the Hulk. The one shot, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, drawn by Juan Cabal, ended with the suggestion that Luke was being pulled back in time to Marvel's present day into new adventures. As announced at today's Marvel Comics Next Big Thing panel at New York Comic Con, Kelly and Lansing, with artist Bernard Chang, will be steering Cage's continuity story in a new 5-issue limited series. Now, for me, when this Power Man and Moon Knight issue first came out as a part of the Timeless One Shot, I was actually a little bit disappointed because I could tell that this series had nothing to do with Marvel's continuity. And the idea that you're taking a character who's like the mayor of New York City and like bringing him to the future and like telling an alternate version of him, I think is such an intriguing idea. But the fact that it wasn't baked into the rest of Marvel's continuity made it feel a little bit hollow for me as a reader. However, I'm really interested to see what Kelly and Lansing are going to bring to this one. Towards their earlier days at the Big Two, I wasn't as big of a fan of them, but they really seem to be taking on much stronger projects and imbuing a lot more quality into some of their writing. The idea of sticking these two creators with Bernard Chang is also quite enticing here, too. I wish I was more into this cover overall, but I'm still liking a lot of the ideas that are featured in this article. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of this one, and then we'll cover our next story from New York Comic Con. Luke Cage adopted the Power Man alias early in his career, with his solo comic being named Luke Cage Power Man, starting with issue 17. The mantle moved to Victor Alvarez in 2010. The timeless version of the character is a Cage who has lived for centuries past his time and reverted to his former title. So let's check out our first issue synopsis from Marvel Comics for Power Man Timeless Issue 1. He is unstoppable, indestructible, corruptible, immortal, and utterly alone. He is Power Man ripped from the breakout story in Timeless. The God-slaying, gamma-powered, iron-fisted Sentry from the future Luke Cage arrives in the Marvel Universe, only to discover a foe and a mystery that will challenge even his incredible abilities. From timeless scribes Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing and artist Bernard Chang, Power Man is a guided tour of the solar system that only Marvel Comics could provide. Power Man Timeless 1 is published by Marvel in February of 2025. Really exciting stuff over for Marvel. I hope they are really able to thread the needle and bring some of these elements back into modern day continuity to really help enrich the character of Luke Cage moving forward. I think the idea of him serving as the mayor of New York City has really helped the main Amazing Spider-Man series, and I'm hoping that Marvel Comics doesn't take that continuity away from him. Give me just a few moments here. We're probably going to go ahead and open up our last story for the day. You know what? I'm also going to go ahead and check for breaking news before we close out our stream. Give me just a few moments. All right, it looks like we should be set to go for today. This past Wednesday saw the release of a massive Marvel comic book that I've been anticipating for quite a while, ever since I heard it was announced, and that was Declan Shalvey's brand new Mystique series. Adventures in Poor Taste has an X-Men Monday column over with Mystique. Let's go ahead and check out what artist and writer Declan Shalvey has to say about his brand new Mystique comic book. Welcome, X fans, to another edition of Uncanny X-Men Monday at Adventures in Poor Taste. This one was written by Chris Hassan on October 7th. She's deadly, determined, and she's starring in an all-new From the Ashes miniseries. She's Mystique and Mystique. On sale October 16th and written and illustrated by Declan Shalvey. But what can we expect from this 5-issue story? To learn the answer to this and other questions, I talked to Declan about everybody's favorite shapeshifter. Let's see what he has to say. So this past Wednesday, we got the first issue of Marvel's Mystique comic book. I thought it was really interesting to see Mystique stripped away of so many of her resources on Krakoa and really see her operate as like a secret agent across the Marvel Universe. Watching her like rendezvous with characters like Nick Fury as well as Maverick was really, really interesting. I love the idea that Declan Shalvey took on some of the Wolverine mythos and utilized the character of Mystique for it. I thought that was just a really fascinating concept. Also, Shalvey does an excellent job navigating not only Nick Fury Jr., but also Nick Fury Sr. in this series too. I'm curious to hear if we're going to get any of the characterization from some of those entities. AfroSF says life is stressful at the moment. I'm so late. Promise to watch on playback. No worries, AfroSF. Fantastic to have you over on our stream today. Welcome back to X-Men Monday, Declan. Shalvey says, thanks for having me. Mystique is a 46-year-old character who's been the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants, a federal agent, a member of the X-Men, and a part of Krakoa's Quiet Council, and so much more. In your opinion, what makes Raven such an interesting, versatile character? Declan says, I guess it's in the name, really, Mystique. She's been all over the nooks and crannies of the Marvel Universe in various roles, but at the core of it all, she's a character where we never really truly know where she stands, and that is always compelling. Shalvey has done a great job illustrating these covers that pose Mystique in these really tense scenarios, like a sentinel closing its mouth. What's your elevator pitch for your 5-issue Mystique series? Declan says Krakoa has fallen, and from the ashes, the most dangerous mutant on the planet has gone rogue. She's on the run from Nick Fury Jr., who is the one S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who recognizes the threat she poses. Trying to piece together the motive behind her recent actions will figure out the plan before it's too late. This answer from Declan is a ton of fun. I love the idea that Nick Fury Jr. is almost serving as the voice of the reader who's trying to figure out what's going on in the background over with Mystique in this book. X-fan Mas Tute or 2T wanted to know what Mystique's state of mind is going into your story. Is it tactics? Is it revenge? Is it something else? Declan, I don't think probably wants to give away some of the characterization for Mystique. It was really mysterious in the opening issue. He says, I think I'll say tactic for now without giving anything else away. There's definitely more of a personal motive going on, which will be revealed at the end of the mini-series. Indeed, just as I thought, Declan Shalvey has more in mind for the character of Mystique, but does not want to give all of his cards on the table before the miniseries is done. Two family questions because X fans love families. First, X fan Liam, Ma Tassi Tucci, and Mike Jones asked if Destiny will play a role in this miniseries. Honestly, this is probably the biggest question we have in terms of Marvel Comics' upcoming Mystique comic book. So much of Krakoa really centered around Mystique getting back to her family, of not only her love interest Destiny, but also her children and her son Nightcrawler. This was a massive retcon that happened towards the end of Krakoa that really positioned Mystique together with her family. And towards the beginning of this new Mystique series, the big question is, where is this family that Mystique just reunited with? And why are they not in this miniseries? Okay, Declan says, the series very much focuses primarily on Mystique as a solo character, but there are obvious references to Destiny. Yeah, it just seems like Declan Shalvey does not want to give his cards away before he's done getting to the heart of the characterization. So much of these questions function as plot reveals in the story that are yet to be revealed as of right now. Second, X fans Emily and Gray asked if any members of Mystique's family will appear. This has to be the same answer as the past, I would say, 2 or 3 questions. Other characters from Mystique's past will appear in some fashion, including family. But again, this is an action espionage book that moves from mission to mission, so Mystique is very much on her own in this story. Man, nearly every cover that we've seen on this Mystique comic does just a great job employing Raven in this really fascinating and visceral scenario. We're trading the teeth of the Sentinel, and in this image, we're getting a giant snow construct chasing Mystique really close towards the edge of a mountain. X-fan John Hamm wanted to know how many characters Mystique will transform into each issue. If that's a bit too spoilery, what can you tease about Mystique's shape-shifting antics throughout your story? That's actually a good question. I will say one aspect of Mystique that maybe wasn't explored quite as much in the Krakoan era was having her sort of like shape-shift and really take on interesting character interactions. We really had to have Mystique function as herself for most of the Krakoan era, but she did shapeshift a few times, to be fair. In issue 1 of Mystique, she really amps up the shapeshifting in a fascinating sequence. In fact, I probably think it's one of the most visually stimulating amongst the interior pages for the first issue. It's really great to see Mystique operate as a sort of agent character and use her powers to like funnel this espionage agenda that she has. That is undoubtedly the most fun part of the book. As a writer-artist, where I need Mystique to do a certain action, she can do it as another X character. And I don't need to worry about continuity. I generally try to stick to early and core X-Men characters because that's who I was dying to draw. I can say we will see her appear as Wolverine in a scene, Sabretooth in another, Gambit, and even Beast. Very interesting that they are asking Declan about Brian K. Vaughan's Mystique miniseries. As I was doing some research for Mystique, I ran into that comic book. Sadly, I've never checked it out. If anybody has, please let me know in the chat if it's any good. They asked, do you have an all-time favorite Mystique story? Declan says, that's a good question. It's probably X Factor 130, where Mystique is trying to assassinate Graydon Creed only for someone else to do it, when X Factor stops her. I was reading all the X stuff at the time and very plugged in, and that had a great, iconic Jeff Matsuda cover to boots. Always fascinating to hear some of these X-Men creators talk about their touchstones. The X-Men have had such a long continuity. It's always fascinating to hear like what individual era is closest to that writer's heart. I was reading that run when it was coming out, loved that Matsuda art. Now I'm curious to learn about your creative process as the writer and artist of Mystique, as you don't need to worry about other artists interpreting your scripts. Yes, Declan is the writer and artist of this Mystique comic book. The collaboration between the writing and art of Mystique is pretty advanced and very interesting to see. I think the shape shifting sequence does such a good job pulling on so much tension of the scene from the writing and visual aspects. Does your approach differ when you're the one illustrating your ideas? It has to, right? Declan Shalvey must have like a much different working style when he's working on his own as opposed to having a script that he's writing for an artist. But curious to see how he's going to answer this one. He says, honestly, not really. There's more of a shorthand when I'm drawing and writing my creator stuff, but on Mystique, I'm working out stuff with my editor Darren Shan, so it's all on the page. When I'm writing for someone else like Andrea Boccardo on Alien for Marvel, on Eater Messias for Phases of the Moon Knight recently, I'm working with an artist who has similar sensibilities as my own, and we gel together well. In those cases, the similarities are great, and when they offer their own interpretations, that's an exciting thing to see. But yeah, when it's an idea in your head that you're putting on the page, there's a purity to the creative action that's uniquely satisfying. I mean, if you look at the ways that Mystique is leaping into battle across each of these individual panels, the way that Shalvey is able to capture her motion is just stirring and staggering. On this first page, she's kind of guiding Maverick through gunfire. On the second one, she's throwing him towards a group of other goons. And then on the third panel, she's getting some revenge with some shots that are also bleeding right off the page here. Declan's art is incredibly complicated and uses motion to the best of its ability to create a comic book that is just shockingly visceral. Speaking of art, I had a chance to read an advanced copy of Mystique 1 and loved how you subtly portrayed Raven's shapeshifting powers. Those little ripples are so simple, but they bring a visual element to a power that isn't as dynamic as optic blasts and glowing playing cards. Is there anything you want to share about how you aim to illustrate Mystique throughout the mini-series? Thanks. The shapeshifting element was suggested by the editor actually, and it was a good one that I feel different characters appearing suddenly in panels could have been disorienting to the reader. Having that little shifting effect is a nice, subtle way for the reader to connect the dots. I didn't want to copy the films and do the scales effect, but I tried to use a textured effect that flowed with the figure's body. Matt Hollingsworth is using this cool texture effect and that distinctive Mystique blue, which enhances the effect. Yeah, there's just ever so slightly this like glimpse of blue where you can tell that Mystique is a shape shifting into her next figure. Also, the really subtle character like facial interactions and the way that Maverick is sort of moving his head in this page also suggests so much subtext towards the page. Finally, beyond the X Office, you seem quite busy. Of all the other characters you're writing right now, from Aliens to Thundercats to Terminators, who would you won't want? Who would you most want Mystique to shapeshift into? Declan says, it's nice to be busy. If I was really smart, I'd have her shift into Daredevil, Wolverine again, or Spider-Man, so I could stealthily have Marvel approve my way into stories for those characters. Now that's espionage Marvel style. Love it. But on that note, thanks for stopping by X-Men Monday. And for more Declan on Mystique, check out his recent appearance on the Adventures in Poor Taste podcast. Here we have some preview pages from Declan Shalvey on the first issue of Mystique. I would highly encourage you guys to check this one out. It was so much fun seeing Mystique captured in this really tense espionage setting, especially as just a great juxtaposition to where we've seen Mystique positioned in terms of Immortal X-Men. She's gone through so much family drama that really watching Mystique take charge in her own like espionage-fused story, I think is a great sense of catharsis for the readership of this series. Also, very cool that this Mystique comic book is set over in Frankfurt, Germany in some of these instances. It's still really interesting to see how like all of these From the Ashes comics for the X-Men are split up into different areas across the globe. Another interesting aspect that I picked up on recently was the fact that Wolverine is actually positioned out of Canada for his series, and we actually have Nightcrawler positioned there too. So, I mean, once again, we already have talked endlessly about how Cyclops is in Alaska, Rogue is in Louisiana, And, we have characters like NYX operating out of New York City. From the Ashes is just taking place all across the globe. Oh, this was one of my favorite panels too. This page did a great job recapping some of the previous history of Mystique, even extending like as far back to Krakoa too, and referencing her time on the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants with Magneto. Yeah, this was a great page, really making so much emphasis of all the interesting like shading and hues that Declan Shalvey has used to really bolster the intrigue on each and every page. Okay, hopefully we'll be back to talk about this upcoming raid on Grey Malkin X-Men Monday. I think the idea of both Jed MacKay and Gail Simone on one of these panels is going to be really, really fascinating. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming to our stream today. That's going to go ahead and wrap it up over for the day. I'm going to be back as soon as I possibly can here. I want you to go ahead and stay tuned over to the channel. If you haven't already, I also want to encourage you to go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel as well as this video. Thank you so much for spending an hour and a half with me this Saturday. And I hope to see you really soon for some upcoming comic book streams.